everybody applauds. And here it's the same.
Carlos, your microphone is color-coded to your shirt.
Give me my red one.
But he likes the red one. There's probably some astrological reason for that. I don't know. Hi, I'm Robert McBride. I'm one of the guys on All Classical Portland, like Krista Wessel right there, who I just spied.
Hey, Krista.
Krista will be doing many of these pre-concert chats over the season, and so will I. And sitting next to me is Colin Currie, our percussionist star tonight. Let's hear it for Colin Currie, who is not only our star percussionist tonight, but is the orchestra's resident artist for the next 3 seasons, and we'll be talking about that. And this, of course, is Carlos Kalmar, music director of the Oregon Symphony.
Good evening.
So we're going to dispatch with the overture that begins this program in 2 sentences. Go.
Luigi Cherubini, actually he's a great composer. It's just a little bit unfortunate that his country, Italy, produced a couple of composers who are just better. It's good music. He wrote actually a fantastic requiem, and there are some string quartets. And as far as I know, he attempted to be very successful in opera, wrote some 30 of that, and many of them failed. And then his final attempt is actually Alibaba. And it fell through colossally. The critics destroyed him, but they loved the overture.
And I know why you've chosen this overture. Cherubini was a contemporary of Mozart, and you know Mozart got into Turkish music sometimes with cymbals and triangles and drums. I'm guessing this overture does that too.
This overture does that too, exactly.
So and therefore it fits in as a lead up to a percussion concerto.
It's a lot of fun. Those were my 2 sentences.
Okay. Colin Currie, welcome back.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, of course. Very happy about that.
Yeah, and you've been here before and performed with Carlos and with this orchestra. And what about being a resident artist for 3 seasons? And the previous guy was a cellist, so he could relatively easily go play on a table in a cafe somewhere. How are you going to do this with percussion?
Well, it's been an exciting week. I certainly have been out and about with several events so far. I've been over to Newburgh, to their wonderful new venue there, playing at the Arts Centre there, fantastic place. And I went to the St. Mary's Boys' Home, which was a wonderful visit and incredible place to perform in. And I was playing at the Farmers Market today.
Which one?
The one
downtown?
Downtown.
Ah.
Yeah.
We were at the one in Beaverton. Missed you.
Missed it.
What were you playing? You had a snare drum? You had
that one was a collaboration with the percussion section here. So we had a few pieces happening. Where were you?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I had a lot of errands to do today, so
okay.
I'm going to miss that. But I'm glad you did it. That's great.
Yeah. No, it's been fantastic. And it's really wonderful to be with this orchestra because I've been playing here regularly and always with Carlos and always having this great spirit of adventure and always a new piece. You know, I've been here 4 separate occasions and always with different repertoire. And it's always had this sort of galvanizing momentum building. And every time I come here, it seems to be more and more uplifting. And the orchestra sounding better and better. And the public responding more strongly to this music that I bring.
Let me tell you something, it feels that way here too,
for
good. Us.
Yeah, so we're on the same
really
page.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, this concert is being recorded by Sound Mirror, the company in Boston that makes all the Oregon Symphony CDs. They do incredible work. 4 concerts this season will be recorded for broadcast on All Classical Portland, including this one. Did you know that?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But thanks for the heads up.
Okay, are we going to get into percussion jokes here?
After you.
Because, you know, I really don't like the triangle much. I'm a real square in triangle circles. Sorry. All right, so where were we? Let's talk about this piece. With all this stuff. Do you play all this stuff? Do you move around?
Yeah, in this piece, my setups are all at the front of the orchestra. And I have to dodge Carlos. He's still in the middle. He still gets pride of place in the middle. And I swing back and forth. And the piece gets off to a very explosive beginning. And actually, you'll hear in quick succession most of the sounds that I will play over the course of the whole piece get introduced in the maelstrom of music that begins the piece. It begins with a very volatile, energetic piece of music that does calm down after a minute or two. So at the beginning, I do go back and forth and let you hear some of the sounds and get you into percussive shape. And then the piece settles down, and I begin a section called the Heartbeats, which is over here. And then I play some drums. The central section, I play the marimba. That's a slow section, very, very beautiful section. And, well, we could talk some more about the music, of course, and why this piece has this title. And
James McMillan, a fellow Scot, is a very religious fellow, and he's working with an ancient Advent chant in this piece. So how much will we actually hear that? You will hear it
very clearly towards the end of the work, and you'll be familiar with, perhaps, in music, classical music, there could be something known as a theme and variations. Well, this piece is very much variations, and then the theme comes towards the end of the work in its most clear guise. But in actual fact, even during those very volatile and indeed dissonant opening fanfares, there are in the musical DNA snippets of this beautiful and very emotional and lyrical hymn, O Come, O Come, Emmanuel, which is a hymn that I believe is often sung here at Christmas time, and something that actually, certainly in North America, everyone here pretty much will be familiar with that melody. But what he does with it is very special. And obviously he disguises it and sews it into the texture. Sometimes it is very well hidden, and other times it is more obvious, let's say.
Do you know James McMillan personally?
I do, very well. I'm also from Scotland, and I met him when he was just starting this extraordinary curve in his compositional career. I was 13 years old, and this was in 1990, and it was just at the premiere of The Confession of Isabel Gaudi, which is a staggering piece that he wrote at that time, and launched him immediately onto the international classical music platform. A wonderful piece, and he was able to offer some time as a composition teacher at the music school still, where I was studying every Saturday in Glasgow. So the very first time I met him, I actually brought him a piece of music that I was writing at the time, which was a piece for flute and vibraphone. And he told me, oh, that's interesting. I'm writing a percussion concerto right now, and the section I'm working on right now has a duet for flute and vibraphone. And it's in this piece. So that's this piece he was talking about. So I've known him since then. Jimmy's a very, he's not one who's aloof. So even if he met a young composition student, he would treat them with as much respect as he would a famous conductor or any other type of musician.
Did he rip off anything from your duet and put it in there?
No, that was not necessary. No, but I've always been very taken by his groundedness, and his spirituality is very strong. He's a very serene man, although his music is huge and wild and daunting sometimes. But as a man, he is absolutely peaceful and calm.
Wow, I'm glad you said that. I love dichotomies like that. Humans are interesting, aren't they? Carlos, have you done this piece before?
Not this piece, but I have done actually, same thing as with Colin. I fell in love with the music of James McMillan because I listened and later conducted here as well, the Confession of Isabel Gaudi. It's haunting, beautiful and haunting at the same time. And I had the pleasure of meeting James McMillan, now Sir James, has been knighted on the occasion of a premiere of a choral piece. He writes a lot for chorus, always wonderful, always really difficult. And I had actually, maybe 2 months ago, the pleasure of doing in Grant Park in the festival where I'm the artistic director, one of the most amazing pieces that James has ever written, which is called The Quickening, which I could talk to you forever. But that's not the point. The point actually that it is first of all, when you think percussion concerto, you might think three things. First of all, rhythm. Second, the soloist will be running around on stage. And third, weird instruments. And actually, running around, yeah. Rhythm, oh yeah. But no weird instrument.
What is this gigantic wood block? That's kind of weird.
That's a log drum. So it is interesting in this piece, particularly the combinations of instruments are new and create new sounds, particularly in this setup here where we have tempo blocks, a log drum, they're all wooden instruments, and these cowbells, rather fine cowbells called Almglocken, which were used very often by Messiaen, for example, in his music. But he has made this sort of new battery there, featuring all these three sounds, and that will be something new for your ear, although in actual fact, the component instruments are familiar.
It's good to have something like this memorized, isn't it? Because you have to move around so much. Do you still compose?
Good question. I wish I had more time for that.
Me too.
And
why did you hear his music?
I always have music in my head.
We should collaborate on something, perhaps. So we're two frustrated composers. Are you a frustrated composer too?
I don't. I always used to say 20 years ago, when I had I was always very nasty in my assessment. I said, I don't write music because there is already so much bad music in the world.
But I have written cadenzas for concertos that I play, and I've written some percussion recital pieces, but it takes me a very long time to get the music that I like. But I'm extremely interested in composition, and I've met so many wonderful composers and had a lot of time to think about what they've thought about. So it's something I'd like to do some more of.
And you've worked with composers when they're creating a percussion piece?
Very much so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That must be heaven for them.
Well, the thing is, I've premiered perhaps 25 percussion concertos, maybe more now. And for every composer, there's as many types of music and as many personalities and as many methods of approach. Everyone is very different. Some of the composers need a lot of encouragement and want me to teach them things about the instruments and maybe show them rhythms and talk about counterpoint. Others just vanish into thin air and the full score arrives on your doormat 2 years later. So that's also very interesting. Some want you very close and others prefer distance.
Yeah. So, off the top of your head, favorite rock drummer?
I think probably John Bonham.
Yes, good answer.
Yeah.
Favorite jazz drummer?
Buddy Rich.
Okay, yeah.
Whom I saw. I saw Buddy Rich on his last ever European tour. And yeah, I mean, not a subtle drummer, but just phenomenal.
Yeah, tremendous natural talent.
Yeah, a force of percussion.
Okay, let's get into a really hard question. Your favorite conductor? Ooh.
Well, this evening, there's no doubt. Favorite percussionist?
This evening, there is no doubt.
Favorite interviewer?
Favorite audience? Yeah, it's all good.
All very
Actually,
good.
I'm interested. Who is your favorite conductor? Without, just don't look at me. Just forget.
Could be a
that I'm
dead guy,
even-
right? And then you're not going to.
Well, I have to say,
I'm sure you have a lot of experience, and you had some of them you enjoyed tremendously. So
Yeah. Of the ones that I have worked with, I have enjoyed doing a variety of pieces with David Robertson, who has a great joy of making music. And that's what I like most in conductors is the exuberance and the passion of music and bringing that out of an orchestra. So anyone...
Is he still the St. Louis music director?
Yeah, St. Louis, and now also Sydney Symphony. So he's a fine collaborator because he has a lot of energy. But I would say that of conductors whose work that I've admired from the audience, a recent concert comes to mind. A couple of weeks ago, we heard Bernard Haitink in London conducting Bruckner 7. It was just perfect. It was just gorgeous. A total respect for the music. He just let it unfold. It was magnificent. So, yeah.
Nice. Sorry I missed it. I'm often on Carlos to do more Bruckner here, but we won't get into that now. No. All right. So how old were you when you started banging on things, and did your mother think you were nervous because you were always doing this stuff?
My parents have been fantastic, so supportive. And when I started, of course, it was just another hobby of mine. I was interested in lots of things, and I had a very happy childhood in Scotland, lots of school clubs and sports and things. But I always loved the drums, but it was very very generic and not particularly focused particularly. But when I heard the symphony orchestra when I was 13 and started playing in the local youth orchestra and hearing pieces such as Stravinsky, Rite of Spring, Respighi, Pines of Rome, Elgar, First Symphony. These are some of the first pieces I heard with a symphony orchestra. I knew I wanted a life in that area, classical music, and something to do with the orchestra too.
Elgar 1 is one of those pieces that will be played here and recorded for broadcast, right?
I don't know about recording for broadcast. If you say so, you're right.
Okay, cool.
But
did you play piano, sing, electric guitar, anything else?
Piano, I was a dreadful pianist, very ham-fisted, slow, but I had an amazing piano teacher, and she changed my perception of music forever. So studying the piano was very important.
And what have you not done that you want to do, other than write more music, which I encourage you to do?
Conducting.
You've already got one stick in your hand some of the time. How hard can it be, right?
Well, it's strange. I mean, I love what I do. I love bringing these pieces to audiences and giving them an adventure. And yeah, I love bringing new pieces. So premieres are very important.
Well, actually, without revealing anything, but I can say that this is the first year of Colin's tenure as our artist in residence. After this concert is over, we are going to talk to each other very seriously about what we are doing next year. But I can already tell you that in the third year, we are going to have a world premiere here in this hall, because we have already identified a composer, American composer, who will write a percussion concerto for Colin.
Which is thrilling,
Yay.
absolutely thrilling.
So you grew up in Edinburgh, and you mentioned you studied in Glasgow. Where else should we go in Scotland if we get to go there and visit?
Yeah, it's a small country that has an unbelievable amount to see. The Highlands and Islands are outstanding. So that archipelago in the northwest, the Hebrides, is absolutely amazing. And there are many fantastic whiskey distilleries, Islay, for example. One place I really want to go, and I've only been a couple of times, but I'd love to go back there. It's a very, very mysterious place and has some incredible ancient ruins there. Is Orkney, the Orkney Islands, where there's a standing stones, the Ring of Brognar, which is older than Stonehenge, and there's a human settlement there which you can visit at what's it called? Scarabray. Someone I think was close there. Scarabray, thank you. Scarabray, and it's twice as old as the pyramids.
What?
So it's quite a remarkable place and very rugged. And the people there are very interesting too and have an amazing accent. The people from Orkney are known as the Orcadians, and they have very special accent. And
Short for the orcs?
perhaps, yeah.
And so Peter Maxwell Davies has lived there for a long time. Do you know him?
He has. Yeah. I have met Max a lot of times, and indeed he asked me to perform at his festival there, the St. Magnus Festival in Orkney. Yeah.
You know, we think of that part of the world, you know, north of Scotland, Orkney Islands, as being very cold and very remote, and why would there be ancient civilizations there? But there were ancient civilizations there and in other countries up there, and a lot of seafaring trade going on back centuries and centuries ago. And I so wish we could somehow turn the clock back and see all that, because all we have are these scattered ruins. There's probably some really fascinating stuff buried up there that we haven't found yet. Yeah. And what a place to be for a composer like Peter Maxwell Davies, to have that landscape to set your spirit and your mind free. That just sounds lovely to me. There's a B&B in Glasgow called the Kincaid House, which was built by my mother's ancestors. I must go there someday, but I haven't made it yet. Who wants to go to Scotland? Let's go. Let's go to Fingal's Cave. Have you been there?
No, I've not been to Fingal's Cave.
Aha.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get there before you do. That'd be crazy. All right, what else you want to talk about? Or do you want to go warm up? Have we taken enough of your time?
Yeah, well, I just want to say that this is a wonderful orchestra to work with, and the freshness which they bring to playing these difficult new pieces is something that feeds me as well. And these rehearsals have been very exciting, and this is our first concert together with my residency here, and I'm very excited about it and grateful to everyone involved in making that happen. But the orchestra really is an amazing thing here, and I want to thank them.
Colin Currie, ladies and gentlemen. Come on over. Make yourself comfortable. You want to talk about Vlast, My Country, My Fatherland by Bedřich Smetana. That's what's coming up after halftime.
Yeah, let me first clarify. Vlast by Bedřich Smetana is a piece that consists of 6 movements, and we are playing 4. There are 2 reasons for that. One is length of concert, because if you play all of them, it's probably an hour and 15 minutes, all in all. That would make this concert very, very, very long. And second, although I am really deeply in love with the piece Vlast, the last 2 movements, which are the ones that we don't play, are a tiny bit weaker in terms of how they are written. Lastly, also, it has to be said that although in our day and age it's kind of popular to do the entire cycle, all 6 symphonic poems, that's not the way that Smetana actually wrote them, and that's not the idea that he had in mind. His idea was actually, let me write some music that is extremely nationalistic so that it can be performed individually. So that is, in the end, yes, the reason why we always play the Moldau all the time is because it's such a stunning piece of music. But it's also following the intention of the composer, who said, play the Moldau alone. It doesn't matter that there are other pieces. And actually, in the concept of Vlast, the only 2 pieces that you cannot or you shouldn't play isolated are the last 2 movements, which we are not playing. The first 4, I did a concert where I played 3 out of these 4.
Yeah, I think that's great. You don't have to do
That's
all.
great. And just a tiny bit of sad history. which is Smetana's personal history, because we, especially people who know a little bit about the history of Czech people and know how long it took them to even have a composer that was internationally recognized, this one, Smetana, and how important the nationalistic, coloristic, folkloristic element is. It's actually astounding that all of this came from a composer, Smetana, who actually, in his upbringing and in his, let's say, first 30 years, did not really want to have much to do with his home country. We are talking about a young boy who actually probably failed colossally in pretty much anything when he was a boy or even a very young teenager, and who then left his country and started to live in Gothenburg. He kind of made a little bit of a career. He always admired Franz Liszt very much, and he wanted to be like that. But to be like Franz Liszt, kind of tough, because Franz Liszt, greatest pianist of the 19th century, probably. So that was difficult. And I learned that actually Smetana's first language was German. He spoke German.
So did Liszt.
So did Liszt, meaning...
Liszt didn't speak Hungarian, it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. And Smetana started to learn how to write in Czech when he was really into adult life. And actually, kind of during the exile years, he started to feel something for his country. And then he returned to Prague. And he was, of course he was writing music at that time as well, but he had, nobody really recognized, and for sure, the people who recognized him the least were his Czech fellows. So in an old story, you're never being recognized in your own country when you're in Europe.
Then he comes back and he writes music like this, celebrating the Czech people and their history.
But actually, there is a little bit of sad story before we start this. Because yes, he was extremely successful, operas, stuff, etc. And then actually he got extraordinarily sick. He contracted syphilis. And actually from what I read, is one day he was at a concert, and when he came back from the concert, his ear was really bothering him. And the next day he wakes up, and for the rest of his life, he was deaf. So this is a story a little bit like Beethoven. And actually, Vlast is a piece that was written during that time. So we're talking about somebody who writes a piece as incredible as this and has never heard a note of what he wrote, which is astonishing. And Smetana kind of was hanging on to his respected life very much. He got a pension from the state, from the Czech state, and was very angry about that because he said the pension that he's getting towards the end of his life was too small because, yes, he was living above poverty, but not much, but the Czech government got all his royalties. And it is what it is. And then, unfortunately, syphilis and the consequences of having had syphilis got even way worse. He got very erratic, he got completely paranoid and schizophrenic and all of that. And he actually died in an asylum, completely insane. It's a Smetana is one of the really sad stories. And having said that, and knowing that actually deaf composer writes this, well, because we all get accustomed there is Beethoven, and yeah, he didn't hear anything, but he was a genius. And that's why everything that he wrote when he was deaf, yeah, we kind of take it for granted. Well, Smetana, deaf composer, unfortunately, during the time of this, and then he writes this. And this 4 movement tell you 4 stories.
Carlos? We're
Yeah, I
gonna
know.
get
Okay.
yelled at if we...
I'm getting yelled at all the time. I'm used to that. So the Moldau you already know. Vyšehrad is a castle on a bluff overlooking Prague. The last movement from Bohemia's woods and
Forests and fields.
forests and fields.
Something.
It's just like a painting, doesn't have. And Sharka, I have to tell you my favorite movement in a way.
You like Sharka?
Oh yeah.
It's Halloween music.
No.
She was scary.
She was scary. Lady gets betrayed by her lover, or it's also the war of the sexes. It's a very, very old story.
One of the oldest, actually.
Actually. And she forms an army of women and lets the women tie her up with a rope on a tree so that the man can find her. They find her, and she actually, there is a party because the leading man falls in love with her. And there's a big party celebrating that, and she drops a potion into the wine, and all the men fall asleep. You hear it snoring in the music. And then with a horn, she calls all her fellow maidens, and the piece ends with all the women slaughtering the man. Wonderful. Okay, no.
And with that, we really will wrap up our conversation for tonight. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the concert. Carlos Kalmar.
Robert McBride.